Welcome to today's webinar, Leveraging GPT Chatbots for Citizen Experience Success, featuring Optimal's own Optibot. Optibot is powered by Revelo Software, and this webinar is being sponsored by Optimal Solutions Group. Next slide. Just a note, while we're all here today, we wanted to let you know that we're recording today's session, and participants will be muted, but please feel free to drop questions into the Q&A or comments in the chat. And we will answer questions towards the last 1/3 of today's webinar. All right, today's presenters, we have Mark Turner, President and CEO of Optimal Solutions Group. We have Sadaf Aswar, also our Data Science Director. Sadaf is a little under weather. He's on the line. In his stead, Ashish will be assisting, and I lead our software in IT operations, Tracy Turner here. Next slide. Here's today's agenda. We're going to go over relevant legislation that can help you fund and or give you guidance on how to implement bots in your agency. We'll give you an overview of the landscape of bots, and we'll introduce you to our complex Optibot and give a demonstration, followed by our Q&A session. Just a little bit about Optimal. We've been around for 20 years. We're at the University of Maryland. We do a lot of collaboration with the university, and we've done a lot of evaluations for various agencies, especially the SBA, Department of Education, USDA, NIST, and CMS. Next slide. So this isn't our first rodeo. We've implemented quite a few products for the federal government, some with authorization to operate approvals for Department of Education, CMS, USAID. Our latest products are the Optibot, iAccessible, which tests for usability and accessibility in your websites, Acquisition AI to streamline market research, and Comments AI to streamline comments processing. Next slide. So some of the new legislation you can see in your chat today, but there's been an update to the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience, or IDEA, which has a focus on accessibility and also references the Technology Modernization Fund, where agencies can apply for supplemental funding with a focus on accessibility and reducing citizen burden and improving their experience. And we believe today's presentation will be very helpful for agencies that are high impact service providers who interact with the public at high rates of frequency in providing services. And then this is also in alignment with the customer experience executive order. Next slide. So we're going to start off with a very simplistic customer relationship management bot. HubSpot is a widely used CRM, and we're going to show you how to set that up to not only handle and triage your incoming requests, but also route them to your help desk and or areas of focus where you service customers. We're also going to go into a simple bot that you can put on your website to stay within a knowledge boundary to be accurate, and then we'll go into complex synthesis and dissemination. Next slide. Jasmine. Jasmine is our guru on HubSpot, and she's just going to give you a little tutorial, very short, on how you can integrate chatbots for your help desk and your CRM.
Thank you, Tracy. As Tracy mentioned, HubSpot is a customer relationship management tool, or CRM. So one of the key features of HubSpot is the chat flows tool, which allows businesses to create interactive chats for their website visitors. So a lot of times you see these on websites when you visit them. The HubSpot chat flow bot can be customized to automate customer service interactions based on specific requirements that you give it. The bot can then be embedded directly into your website. The responses are generated by the bot. The responses that are generated by the bot can be fully customizable and can be updated anytime to convey the information that you would like to give to your users. Just say that you have a webinar coming up. You can put that in there as well. Depending on the user's needs, the chats can be directed to various pages on your websites or even routed to tech support or a help desk. The end result is a user-friendly bot designed to enhance the customer experience on your website. Back to you, Tracy.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. The next spot we're going to go to is a little bit past the CRM, past the help desk and technical support. This is one that can actually answer a little bit more complex information off of your website. So if you have a product that you're trying to get people to understand, like replacing your facts and or supplementing your facts on your site, frequently asked questions, you can use a chat-based or similar bot to implement on your site. So in this case, we went to a site called e508.com and we just said, what can we help you with? And we asked, what is E508? And it tells you. Now, if you asked a question, how do I order? It will tell you that. How do I sign up? It'll tell you that. So just thinking about your agency and getting enrollment for grantees or trying to work with reviewers, this can be a very helpful remedial tool for them and cut down on a lot of the help desk questions and technical questions you're getting. And also help people navigate the information you're trying to disseminate to them. All right, now that we've gone over two pretty basic bots, one customer service related and one information related, we're now going to move on to the next one. And this one is a little bit more complex. This is the one we've built. We've been to the OpenAI marketplace. So far, there aren't any other bots that disseminate complex statistical information. Now, people might find us a little bit boring when we tell them we've built a bot to disseminate complex statistical information. But as we all know, having accurate and timely statistical information is the foundation of many reports and what we disseminate out to the public in terms of what the status of our economy is, to what the labor force is doing, to what educational achievement outcomes are. So it's very important to have. All right, so we're going to move on into a little bit of an explanation to this. Mark?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Turner. We're going to tell this story in the context of federal statistical agencies. As Tracy mentioned, federal statistical agencies from the Census Bureau to health statistics have enormous amounts of data. And we would contend that oftentimes this data is not very easily accessible to researchers or to the general public. Go to the next slide. And so that in terms of this information, oftentimes the current approach is you first have to know what you're looking for and then how to find it. And even once you find it, it takes a lot of work in order to sort of get to the right information, apply the right filters, figure out sort of how to look at and interpret the information, and then to get it in the format that you need. And so next slide. And so what we do with and again, the issues is that you have to have skills, oftentimes very technical skills, in order to even know where the information is. And then, those same skills and more in order to retrieve the information, and then additional skills to be able to summarize. And so again, there's a lack of accessibility. Next slide. And that creates a barrier. But this is very rich information, as I think Tracy mentioned earlier. And so what we do is that we use robotic process automation to essentially streamline the process to ingest the information, because we know where the information is, and we're able to then process the information, put it into a format that the chatbot can understand, and then make it accessible to both the agencies and the general public if that's necessary. Next slide. And so, yeah, our new approach we call this our new approach because oftentimes, again, federal statistical agencies, and they have a mandate to disseminate the information and to increasingly disseminate the information to broader audiences that aren't currently using it, and also to make it easier for those that are regular users like researchers to use it. But again, we believe that the return on investment is very high to those that really are really barred from using it because of the high barriers to entry. Next slide. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ashish.
Thank you, Mark. So here we'd like to provide a quick demo of what the Optibot can do with statistical tables such as these, and also shed light into like what that process would look like if you were to do it manually, and why a tool like the Optibot would provide so much benefit. So what for one of our use cases, we build tables such as these that provide that provide information on score changes. So just for a bit of context, tables such as these show how scores change from 2022 to from 2019 to 2022 across different jurisdictions and student groups. Of course, because there are so many jurisdictions, so many student groups, and also multiple grades and subjects, tabulating all of that information would result in large tables that are difficult to navigate. So if I were to ask you to basically use this table to find the results of a given jurisdiction or student group, you would have to find the right table, find the right column and row, find the cell value, and then interpret the cell value um, uh, based on based on the information that you provided about the values. All of that would require intimate knowledge of the data itself, and even if you have that, it would take quite a bit of time to get that information. So that's where Optibot can be a superior alternative for getting such data. So I'm going to share my screen now. So this is just a simple front end that we have built, and essentially for the Optibot, and what it is trained on is that same table that you saw in the previous slide, which shows how scores changed from 2019 to 2022 from different demographics. Now, with a tool like this, if you were to ask it a question regarding one of the cell values, all you would have to do would be to submit it into the input field. So just as an example, if you were to ask what were the score changes for reading in California, you would simply input it, and behind the scenes, it would retrieve that information, and then it would just respond with the right values. And of course, that whole process was instantaneous, and and it really did not take much effort. Another thing that we should mention is that here, in this question, we did not really specify grades, even though grades is a very important variable in those tables. And what the outcome is, in this case, is if you don't specify grades, the bot will responded with information for the grades that were provided to it. So basically what that means is, users don't have the burden of providing information for all of the variables in the tables. They can afford to just omit certain information and then get responses that are appropriate given the circumstances. I'll provide a few more examples. So in this case, the question is, how did Hispanic grade 8 reading students' scores change? And in this case, of course, this time we did specify the grade, but we did not specify where these students come from. We didn't specify their jurisdiction, in which case the bot knows instead of looking for a certain state, it will just look at the national data and then provide that result. Similarly, just one moment. This time we will ask, what were the score changes for grade 8 math students in Colorado? Again, the response is instantaneous. And this time, notice that we provided the grade, we provided the jurisdiction. We did not provide them with the student group. We just said students. In this case, the bot knows to, by default, give the response for all students. Of course, from a researcher's perspective, you might not want to omit anything. You might want to provide very specific details, and that would elicit a very specific response, in which case you can do that as well. So I'll show that here. In this case, in this question, we provided the grade, we provided the subject, we provided the student group, and we even provide the jurisdiction. And in no time at all, it gives you back the responses. So if you think about how the whole process for how you would have gone about answering these questions without manually by looking, with the tables directly, you would have had to find which of those large tables had the correct information, and then really carefully parse through the right tables, the right rows and columns. And then when you get your values, and then when you have to answer your second question, you would then have to repeat that step all over. With a tool like this, all of the information can be accessed from the same place. So that makes it a lot more accessible, even to people with less intimate knowledge of the content. And it also makes it a lot less time consuming to retrieve information. So that's essentially the gist of it.
Very good. So, Ashish, I have a quick question for you. So you had to do some training for the bot, and you had to create something called maybe like a corpus or a knowledge boundary to make sure that the bot stayed within the content or data or information that we're pulling from, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and in your testing, you tested until you came into 100% reliability, because we've all heard about these large language models hallucinating from time to time. Is that right?
Right. So in this case, if you were, so as an example, if the data right now is trained on grades 4 and grade 8, so if you were to give it a grade that it doesn't have, what it would do is basically just say we don't have the information for this grade, and then it'll provide you information on the grades that it does have.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. And so there are a couple of steps that you did before this. One was you had to have the metadata, and we all know that these statistical agencies have the citations and the metadata accompanying their data. And then you use some robotic process automation to prepare the data for the Optibot to be able to work from that data table. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, it looks like we're just on time for our Q&A segment, the last 10 minutes of our webinar. And while we're waiting for questions to come in, we wanted to say there are a few other steps we'd like to add to our Optibot. One is to post the cited sources and the dates of the data and the limitations, assumptions, all the things that go along with uh, these answering these questions. And so that's very doable. It's in a relational database, and so that's coming next. We also want to work with linked databases and dynamic databases. We'd love to work with your agency to take it to that next step, but those are two items that we are working on in the near future. With that, I'd like to open the floor for any questions our participants may have. feel free to turn off your mics or drop a question into the Q&A or chat box.
Hi, Tracy. This is Jonathan with HOC. How are you?
Wonderful. Good to hear from you, Jonathan.
You as well. This was very interesting. And I work with Artis and Sadaf, and I have a lot of questions, and we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow. But I did want to ask, is this an add-on to a pre-existing, like a website that we would have to have on a domain, or can this be attached to anything that has data? And you may have answered this, and I may have like misheard, but does this have to be housed? Your Optibot, does it have to be part of a like a URL or part of a website in order for it to function? Or can it be the data, can it be asked from a spreadsheet that already contains data? Does that make sense?
We had not covered that, and I thank you for that question. I'm sure Sadaf and Ashish would like to answer the question, but this is a closed loop chatbot, and so I just want to say that. And from that perspective, you can embed it in your website and or off of a corpus, meaning like a research paper or a spreadsheet. But I want to hear their responses to make sure that everything you've said is accurate.
So it is accurate, but as of now, it's just in a closed environment.
We should probably define what we mean by closed. So Jonathan, yes, we can embed it onto. It could be like say hosted on our servers, but then embedded in your application and read your data. But what we mean by open versus closed, a lot of the chatbots that we use are open to the public. We work with both open and closed applications because when it's closed, that means the public isn't necessarily adding additional information to it. And that's one of the ways that we use to mitigate the risk of hallucination or getting false information.
And
Gotcha. No, that makes
go ahead, Jonathan.
no. I was agreeing. That makes sense now.
One thing I had thought about with the agencies is maybe creating a landing page, maybe an offshoot off of your website, so that users can go to that site. You can label it beta, and so if you want to experiment with it to see if it's accurately doing what it's supposed to do, rather than having it on your main website, just as a pilot or something.
Yeah, and that's what there was two scenarios in which I was thinking. We're a housing authority, then we have like Q&A segment that you have to click and then you read articles or stuff. But if this Optibot is there, that's in this environment and it's pulling the data that's already in the system, this would be perfect.
I agree. As a lot of the data scientists, they love to see the visualizations, but people sometimes just don't have time to look at it, figure out what it's saying, and answer their question. It looks like Sadaf has his hand up. Sadaf?
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for attending our call. Really appreciate it. Tracy, and you did a great job answering it. Having not to alienate the rest of the audience, Jonathan and I work together. He's one of our really old great clients. Jonathan, just the way we have been able to use the APIs to get access to the data that we have for you from your Google Sheets, the same way pipeline can be used to access the data, and the rest of it, we'll just take care of it using robotic process automation to prep the data and then put it in the bot. That's as an example.
And you answered the question I wanted to know, because this seems even more easier. Like if I wanted to know how many clients did I enroll on a Monday, and I could just ask the bot that. This is like another game changer, but we'll dive into that another time. But yes, this is great.
That's true. And the other thing is the I asked a trick question because it's about return on investment. So robotic process automation, and once you kind of create that automation, it reduces the labor of kind of getting the information and ingesting it in. And then the other aspect to return on investment is that once you ingest information, you can answer any number of different questions. Like the question you asked is about the count and what happened, but you can ask very detailed questions about, like, depending on what the information is that you're tapping into. Um, you can ask very detailed and granular questions, and they're plain language questions. And so, it's able to. I'm not sure of all the different mathematical operations that it's able to do, but it's able to do a lot of kind of cross tabulations across all the different data tables that it has access to.
And I promise I don't want to hijack this, but I do have one last question. When you do ask it a question and you want to find the data, is it regurgitated back in verbal, in paraphrased form? Does it bring up, can it bring up visuals? Can it do tables, or is it just words?
So Jonathan, we showed a couple of other bots, and so uh, if you train it to bring it all up together, it will do that. And so
Gotcha.
it's just what your preferences are.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
And I thought those are great questions, by the way. So thank you for those questions. And I know sometimes people are a little bit shy about asking questions about new things. And so we definitely are going to follow up with everyone attending today, send out the recording and the transcript. And if you want to set up a separate time to see how this can apply to what your needs are, we really look forward to helping your agency out with that. Okay, with that, we're just going to go to the last slide. Again, thanks everyone for attending today. And here's our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us. Many of you already know us, and we have some contract vehicles, and we have an upcoming webinar in March, which again emphasizes the citizen first approach to working with the public and giving them a positive public experience. And this will be an end-to-end one. This one will highlight our iAccessible product for website accessibility, usability testing and reporting. But thanks everyone, and we look forward to following up and seeing you at the next one. Take care.